manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. metas alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Tiene tanto que ofrecer. Es el sueño el motor, son las metas a alcanzar. Siempre hay que descubrir la manera de vivir. Este lugar, esta tierra, tiene tanto que ofrecer.
And he's pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to PSGL. We're heading into round 4 after our little week's break. We are joined once again by Benjamin, the man, the myth, the legend. How are you doing today, Benjamin?
Hey, I'm never going to get that over that, am I?
No, you shouldn't have said it.
Doing great. Nope, shouldn't have said it. But we're doing great. It's good to be back. Almost felt a little bit hollow. I came back from work last Thursday, sort of in a spin. It's like, oh, hey, can't wait for PSGL. Wait a minute.
Sadness kicks
So
in.
it's good to be back. The sadness, yeah, the post-league depression kicks in.
Oh,
But
it does.
We're back.
It does, and what a track we're going to as well. So we're heading into round 4. If you have not seen the calendar, we are going to the beautiful track of Austria.
Yeah, I gotta love Austria. Like it's simple yet effective. I think what really makes this track unique is a lot of the undulation. So it's like uphill, then downhill, and then you're cambering in. So things like turn 7, turn 4, big hotspots with this track.
Absolutely. So here on your screen, Austria, only 10 turns for this, for the 2.6 mile circuit, with a lot of action and overtaking opportunities. As a matter of fact, you potentially could overtake on all sections of this track. Okay, you are pushing it in some areas, but a quick rundown. Turn 1, key overtaking place, but you see a lot more overtake into turn 3. Turn 2 is basically a slight bend. It's more straight than anything, and we're not T-posing anymore.
Hey, result.
Hey,
But
we're not T-posing anymore. Woo!
I would say, I'd love to know what people's opinions are. Is turn 2 real?
No.
I don't know if it is. I don't think it is.
It is not real in any shape or form. That is just a slight kink, and you can see that where you got the 1 down. If you look at the lovely track map that is on screen, that little bend on the straight quotated, that's turn 2. So yeah, you're heavy braking into turn 3. That's where you're going to get some overtaking. If you don't make the move there, you can have the switchback opportunity into turn 4. Again, if you don't make the move and you don't don't become Alex Albon and be the recipient of being spun off the track, you could make your way down into turn 5 and into turn 6. And then if you're really following tight, turn 7 becomes a great opportunity. Then you can go all the way to turn 9, which is all the way by where the green marker is. And if you really want to fight, turn 10 then becomes an opportunity as well. When I say it's everywhere, I mean you can fight everywhere.
Yeah, well, you've got plenty of track space. Of course, the 10, well, more or less 9 corners, real. You got 9 corners. You got 3 DRS zones, start, finish, straight, turn 1 through 3, and then turns 3 to 4. And then you've got this sort of snaking second sector before you open it up towards the end. There's plenty of opportunity there. And looking around, in fact, we might see what a lap is capable of, as Zerky is going to be the first to start a full runner. But yeah, there's plenty of track space. There's really every opportunity out on the field to give it a go.
Yeah, and we're going to have a hot lap by Zerky. He is the host of the session. Into turn 1, probably the second heaviest braking zone. Drop down to the 5th gear before powering out. You've got to be careful not to run too wide, because those sausage curbs really does disrupt the car and you can spin quite easily. Into turn 2, bit heavier actually. Actually, I'll probably say turn 1's about 3rd in the heavy braking zone before powering it through, heading towards it to turn 4. This is where we saw Alex Albon and Lewis Hamilton have a lovely little collision. And then you swing it round again. Don't touch that curb because you will spin. Into
a little bit of a tail twitch there.
Into turn 6, dab the brake, but you're powering it through. You allow the car really to coast around 6 before again another lift and a potential dab the brake through 7. 8 you can easily invalidate, so you have to be quite careful. Through turn 9 we go again, another lift, another dab. And then finally turn 10, a little bit more pressure. Again, don't run wide, you can invalidate there. Across the line to give us a 104.2.
Let's see if anyone can knock it. 104.2 as well from Isman Nagy, but it's 2 milliseconds behind. Not quite going to be enough. 4.5 from Mikolaj Nowicki. Not quite going to be there. Alessandro Finn, 4.5 is going to be P3. Anyone else coming across the board? I think Dimas invalidated. They're going to have to go again. Next up across the line, Gustav Reiderdal. They're going to be setting their lap now. Is anyone else coming across the line? No, I think this is go time for the others now, the second wave.
Yeah, no, Johansson's on a lap. He puts himself into P3. That's 104.3. So again, he's finding himself a nice competitive time himself and actually doing me proud for once.
That's Justin, 4.6. That's going to be called on. 104.2 is going to set the new benchmark, 2.3. That's 11 milliseconds ahead. Super Gaming going to be 0.294. Anyone else going to be coming across the board? Joris, 0.281. Red Bull coming across, starting their lap. Yeah, that first wave is through, and now we wait to see what the others can come cooking.
Dimas fighting for this championship, currently sitting himself into P3. He's going to be coming up to the line in the lovely green Aston Martin, who is showing strength this season, both the driver and the team in real world. As Dimas is going to come across the line, 104.2. He says, you know what? I've got this lead of this race, and he definitely wants to fight at this championship.
0.204, that's a tough act to follow. We've got such proximity from the rest of the field. Tamas is going to be getting 0.4 or 4.8 even. My mistake there. But then you've got just a few more. Reiderdal invalidated the lap. Going to have to go again. Sparky starting their lap now. Lundqvist is going to be coming in soon. Along with Leo Lund. I think they're about to come across the line and see what they can do. Potentially coming around the last corner now. Got to be careful of invalidating turns 8 and 10. They are big hot spots for track limits. But it's going to be P2. 0.222 there, in fact. Very nicely done from the Mercedes driver. Can the Red Bull match it? No. Only 0.4. But 0.4 exactly. It's a pretty solid time. And puts you right in the mid-pack at this early stage.
Absolutely. And once again, back to race 1 where Dimas and Lund both had their little battles, and we've seen a pattern between these two. They like to be fighting amongst each other, and they're doing it again. Round 4, and they're still fighting. Technically, they're both not fighting for the championship lead. That currently holds to the man in P20, who I think invalidated his first attempt as Sparky crossed the line. P10.
There's just a few drivers left to go over now. So Reiderdal, in fact, just said is going to displace his teammate by 41 milliseconds. It's going to be 0.426. Then you've got just Oski and Daniko left to go. I think Oski Bokarek is on a lap now. So looking at the kind of speeds, just trying to gauge how fast they're going, maybe get a little bit of insight onto the setups. So far, Zerki has the fastest peak speed, 325 kilometers an hour, but that is also tied with Super Gaming, one of the Alpines, and in fact, that's an error there on the telemetry screen. But 5 cars are tied for the top speed. So Oski just went 325 kilometers an hour. And looking at Oski's lap, it is looking strong, but is it going to be strong enough to assert themselves at the very top? A little bit shallow coming through turn 10. It's going to be 0.458. That's enough for P11.
All very close times, and we're seeing, and Austria does show this. It's a very closely matched track. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense in my mind. It's very much a track that everyone is good at. You know, there's not one driver I know who races in this league that doesn't like racing in Austria, who isn't quick in Austria. Even I'm fairly quick in Austria, and that's saying something.
Well, it's what we were saying earlier, right? Simple but effective, and the joys of that is that as far as setups go, it's fairly balanced, I'd say. You do have, of course, your advantages and disadvantages. So you will have those who are running lower wings, maybe a little bit of a stiffer car, really get that downforce working, and reduction of drag, more importantly. You will have an advantage in the straight sections, but you come through Sector 2 and part of Sector 3 becomes a lot more flowing, a lot more about mid-corner downforce and having your car gripped up. So it's not a power track nor a handling track. It's a really fine balance, and I think it shows with how tight the times are, even at the variation in speed some of these drivers are hitting.
Yeah, Daniko still hasn't set the lap time, our championship leader at the moment. He got himself second place in France, and that was enough for him to jump up the pack, where Lund and Dimas was not able to capitalize on the opportunity. But critically, someone who isn't, as Cordell goes fastest in the session, critically, Nicola Aleda has a 2-race ban.
I think that is a massive upset. That turns the championship on its head completely.
It massively does. So the reason for the bans was the aggression in France. There's a lot of argy-bargy elbows out, and well, I think we pointed out a couple of his moves that were very questionable. And that then cost him dear, because he's built up already penalty points within the steward's office. Of course, if you're new or don't understand the system, not only will you get time penalties from the race that will affect that race, you also have essentially like a season license, which is called your penalty points. Accumulate too much, you get a qualifying ban. Go more, you then go and get a race ban, as this Van Nage will now take the top of the leaderboard, putting in a 104.07, just going faster than his teammate.
I'm not sure what the AlphaTauris are cooking, but they are cooking up something fierce, because there's the only 2 cars to be on a 0.0.
It is going to be interesting, but it's still not over. There's still a few drivers here to make their mark, as I don't know if Super Gaming actually has set a purple on your telemetry, but he's looking to slightly improve on his lap, and he's got a Mercedes ahead of him. That will be the outlap of Lund, who will eventually get out the way, but a slight assistance down the straight, slight slipstream will help his lap time, as he is going to cross the second delta time, as Dimas has retired. Is he crashed out? He's crashed out!
Yeah, he crashed out coming out at turn 3. You can see he's off the track.
That is critical, as Super Gaming will invalidate what looked to be a good lap. What was it going to be if he did cross the line? 104.4, so not a good lap. I think he might have backed off at the end, but it would be no improvement nonetheless. But, ooh, Dimas not in this fight. That's big news.
Yeah, so Dimas has got a peak of P4. He set a fairly good time, to give him credit. So I think that we might see, yes, a few people leapfrog, but I don't know how far he'll be jumped down the order. You look at the spread, the grid spread, because P1 through to P16 is within the same half of a second. In fact, say about, just doing some quick commentator maths, about 4/10 separate P1 and P16 right now. So the margins are so tight to the point where I don't know how much he'll be leapfrogged, but that is a critical blunder, I think, especially if they're wanting to be fighting at the top.
Tell you who is fighting at the top, our good man Alexander Johansson, who currently sits in this championship in P15. He is in P5 right now, and he's put himself with a good time. He's not too far off the pace of the front runners. Yes, there is
in this lap.
Yeah, he's coming in this lap, but there is still work naturally. But let's see what happens. As finally Danny Coe as well, just to point out, finds himself in P10. So again, finding himself in the mid pack, but we know Danny Coe can put himself at the front.
Yeah, you've got a few drivers now who are going to be going for their next runs, or going to be finishing up their runs so that they're ready for the final dash to the line come the about 3-minute mark. So really, if you want to get a last run around the track and a potential second chance, you're looking at about 3 minutes you want to head out. It's got short laps on this track. There's plenty of room for error, but at the same time, there's plenty of room for recovery as we've got a few cars coming through. AlphaTauri looking very strong right now.
It's getting stronger.
Along with Hass's P5 and P8.
Yeah, getting stronger as well. AlphaTauri of Cawdor is improving. He's gone 0.088 faster. What can he do as he comes up to the line? He's got 5 minutes 40 left on the clock, and that's a spun Aston Martin. Across the line, has he broke the 103? He has, with a 103.997.
I'd be feeling pretty safe if I was in Cawdor's position.
Nage going positive on the first sector, so he's got to find some time through the second sector. So is his car designed for the twists and turns that are of sector 2? Comes up to the timing line. Please give me good news, because I want a lovely battle between teammates across the line. No, he's still positive on his lap time. He's got, I don't think he'll find 0.077 out of the last sector, but he's gone out early. He's seeing what he could do. Is he going to find any form of improvement? Coming up to the line. No. No improvement.
So tight though. Consistency definitely on show, which I think is just as important.
Amen to that. What Sparky got? It's currently sitting P8. Nope, that's a time that is... He's done a cooldown lap. Don't worry. Ignore. What about... Is Danny Coe on a lap? Is he actually going for it? No, he's done his lap. So drivers, I think, are going to be quickly... Anyone who's out are going to do their last quick runs. Go into the pits, change, and as you mentioned, 3-minute mark. Go and go for one last push.
Yeah, that last push is really what's going to make the difference. This is where we're going to see all of the strategies. We're going to see hypermiling. We're going to see basically running out of fuel on purpose. There's a lot that you can really do to optimize, because remember, at this level or any level, any tenths, any milliseconds that you can gain through strategy is worth doing.
Absolutely. I've got a feeling our only driver who is trying to push is Super Gaming. That first sector, to point out, this first sector basically is one turn, that's it. So it's all about your entry coming in from turn 10 and how that lays out to your entry and exit into turn 1. That is basically sector 1. And we're seeing a variety of different timings coming off that first sector due to the layout of the car, as Super Gaming does find himself improving now after a poorer start. And yeah, then the second sector is still very straight liney in a sense, but it's probably the most technical sector out of the 3.
Yeah, it's playing it safe because they're so sharp on track limits and invalidations here at Austria. Turn 8, turn 10, like we said, but really everywhere is where you've got to be so careful, because even the tiniest push out, even the tiniest corner cut, as an instant invalidation around here, where the track's so simple, they police it so tight.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tomas was on a lap, but I think he's backed off doesn't feel his lap is good enough, but he does have time to go and take it slow, build up some charge, and go again. No, he's hypermiling.
He's trying to burn that fuel a little bit.
So who is on a lap? Give me some numbers, give me some names. Johansson will be starting his lap, his final run. One last shot. What can Johansson do? Can he find himself into the top 3? I'll leave it to you.
Well, remember, say, yeah, the time to beat, they're literally, any improvement will leapfrog them into P4, but they want to be aiming for 0.1s or 0.0s. That's really where they want to be. Johansson's looking fairly strong. It is an improvement, half a tenth, Sector 1. It's looking strong from the Haas so far. Really opening up the taps and heading into the second sector here, heading into turn 4. You've got to be sharp on the brakes, tight to the apex. Dodges the curb a little bit, but that might be for the best because that set them up very nice and smoothly through turn 5. Turn 6 now, sharp downhill. Really got to commit to the mid corner, especially as you come through turn 7 here. A little bit of banking that you can use to your advantage. Gun it out of turn 8. Be careful not to overdo it onto the curbs. Final sector now, coming up to a bit of on-track traffic. Luckily, they stay out of the way. Nice and cleanly done there. Good sportsmanship. Final corner now. Don't overdo it. He's overdone it. He's invalidated what otherwise would have been a top lap.
It would have been good. That would have been critically good. Who's next across the line? It's going to be Lund. Lund doesn't improve. Who else is coming across the line? I can see there's a Red Bull. Is that our new guy? No, it's not. It's going to be his teammate of Adam, who does not does not improve himself. I'm trying to see, is Sparky on a lap? Is that Sparky? Sparky does cross the line. He might go for one more run. But his teammate of Gustav, no, he's invalidated on his final run. Joris puts himself onto pole.
We see these top 3 battling, and Joris has leapfrogged the competition. 0.971. That's going to put them in prime spot here. Looking at Zerky, going to be starting a lap as well. We've got a few drivers who are starting to come through. Few have retired as well, so both Alfa Romeos have retired, importantly. Johansson invalidated, Ryderdal invalidated. Lund is on a run. You're getting some few people. Oski come across the line now. Going to be a McLaren next up. Is it going to be an improvement from Danny Coe? No. Oh, yes, it is. 0.158. That's going to leapfrog Dimas up into P4. Yeah, brief update didn't come through on my screen. My apologies there for the confusion. Ryderdal, no improvement. Next up, Red Bull across the line. I think that's Aliette there. But nope, going to be heading into the pits. Sparky now, coming across the line here. What's it going to be? It's going to be a very, very slight decrease. But Mikulaj, 0.092 is going to take themselves into P4. Any response from the Ferraris? No. Alessandro Finn? Nothing. Leo Lund? Nothing. Romain? Nothing. Next up, Zerky, going to be finishing their lap. What are they going to be getting? No improvement. Then finally, the AlphaTauris, last chance, do or die time. Cordon comes across the line, no improvement. Is Van Nagy going to get anything? This is the question. No. Also, no improvement from the ATs.
So Joris, Joris out of nowhere. He wasn't even a name in this qualifying session that we thought was going to take anything. Goes in and performs that. Wow.
I haven't really got any words. They put pedal to the metal, kept the head down, and they produced a stellar lap.
Yeah, Joris currently sitting in P6, and for a reference, we haven't really talked about the championship standings as at the moment, but realistically, if you're in 26th, which is dead last, there's only 25 points difference. Now, of course, PSGL runs a different point system where 16 points is a win. But even so, that's going to massively jump up. The people who are in that fight, got 15 here, that goes across to around Zerky and Cordor. Realistically, still could jump, assuming the top bunch don't score points. Could take the lead of the championship. It's all up for grabs.
It's crazy to think that the championship is so tight. And I think we'll be coming up in a couple races' time to the halfway mark. And for that to be the case, and yet you have such a tight field spread, crazy to me.
We can't even sit here. Normally at this point, the T-posters have not gone. They're still there. They are still there. The joys of joys.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I love to see that because it means that this field is so close, and it means that PSGL have nicely filtered all these guys into the correct tier.
Yeah, I'll say T-posing pit crew aside. Yeah, I think that overall, there's one thing you can definitely give it props for. It's the balance between leagues. So right here, we see I recognize a lot of these drivers from F5 and also in other competitions, in other leagues. And they've done a really good job, I'd say, of balancing it because we're at this stage and nobody is a clear standout. Nobody's whitewashing. We've had a different winner every time, different podium sitters every time, different points positions every time. There really is like a tight-knit competition, and I'm all for it.
Well, we're going into round 4. We're in Austria. Who's going to be the winner this time? Are we going to have a new winner for the 4th time? Or are we going to have a same winner as before? The 5 lights are showing it's do or die time as the lights will go out and Joris does get a good start and he's going to be proud of it because he's holding off both AlphaTauris off the get-go and the AlphaTauris are still tussling between each other. Who of the teammates will come in front? Yeah, there's an Aston Martin and that's going to be Dimas spinning, so he's not going to be in this championship anymore. And Cordor is going to be slightly ahead of Nage, but Nage is going to try the switch back. No, he's not. He doesn't have really the position to do it. Gustav going to do a drag race against Johansson, who Johansson's been nowhere in this championship, but he has got himself a good qualifying position, but his teammate behind of Zerky might be able to assist against the Alpine as he comes to the inside of turn 5, looks to the outside, but nothing to give, and the drivers will start to thin out. No, because there's going to be a Red Bull trying to push Zerky up the inside, and Zerky's going to find his way through and into potentially turn 9, but it has to hesitate because yes, it could be an overtaking zone. He will make it an overtaking zone because the Alpine have gone massively wide.
It's crazy, like such a chaotic first lap. We had spin from Dimas. You had Leo Lunds dropping down to P15, had an issue around turn 3. You've got, of course, Ryderdale going massively wide, dropping down to P10 now. Alpine's reunited, but not the circumstance they would have liked. Zerky fighting against Adam Lundqvist. The only car on mediums right now is that Red Bull, so you can understand why they're so impatient to get round their opponent cars. They need to maximize that advantage while they have it before those hards truly get into their stride, being those mile munchers, and really see what they can do. But looking behind, Zerky and Sparky now, they're fighting, there's contact, there's sliding. Zerky is going to go sideways, getting contact on the side pod. He's going to drop back behind both Alpines now. He's fighting for some of the drivers. They're fighting for their life out there.
They are, and Zerky's just not having his luck today. I don't know if there's damage on his car, but nonetheless, he is not happy with how the car's behaving. He's just going backwards. He did start in a good position, but now into P9, he's got the Alpine really pushing him up through into turn 10. And look at the train, all knit and tightly packed. There's literally no gap between these guys. Lund will get past Super Gaming, but ahead of the train is going to be Zerky. And the second is broken from... I'm sorry, I was going to jump ahead. Johansson is ghosted.
Johansson's game crashed.
Oh, that's
the game crashed.
so
They're ghosted
annoying.
out. This is a big problem now because every second they're booting back in has lost time. Oh no, he's back in now.
Yeah,
so it's just a matter of time till the game gives it back.
Zerky and Sparky, sorry, Gustav and Zerky, really going for it. Down the inside is Gustav. He'll find the line into turn 5. They still do make the contact, but the Haas driver somehow stays ahead. The elbows are out, and today they're going fighting. They are going for war.
I think, say, Ryderdale's case, it's simply about just being overly eager on the throttle. We've seen a couple times. He's made moves. But what's that in the background? Someone spun out. That's Remind. They are in the wall.
Is that going to cause a safety car? Not yet. It's only going to be a waved yellow flag. We're on board with Sparky as he is closing in on Johansson, who was disconnected from the game temporarily. Dimas has a 5-second time penalty for speeding, and he retires, so he calls it quits very early. But you know Sparky wants to get past. There is DRS down this bit. No, there's not, sorry. As they go late braking into turn 3. And a good lunge from the Alpine driver. And he's going to now drag race himself with the assistance of DRS to solidify his position into P7. And a brilliant work done. And just a correction, there is DRS. I'm just a nimwit to forget there is.
So these two are just sort of battling it out. Because you've got two Hasses sandwiched by two Alpines. So the strategic options are kind of limited. Ryderdal, I think, is just a little bit too eager on the throttle because they've had moves. And then just, I assume, say maybe from excitement having the move, they gun it on the throttle, lose the rear, and lose that exit of the corner, which allows them to get it back. So he needs to sort of have that composure in a way. He's got that DRS that he can use to his advantage, potentially. But in the train that we're in, it really relies on what...
Oh! Johansson! Oh, whoa! Just did not hit his braking zone correct, and that just went into the rear end of Sparky, and you know there's going to be penalties and damage to the front wing of Johansson, and you can see Sparky now getting overtaken by Lund, but Johansson, visually that wing's fine. How has he got away with this?
I think it would have been to say if I can see if I can pull any data. Unfortunately, it's not giving me much. Yeah, it does look like it's managed to get away with it. But we never know with this game sometimes.
Yeah, you've lost confidence though, because Gustav has just got past Johansson down the inside of turn 7, and that's a bold area to make moves. So Johansson now shaking. I think he's realised he's made a mistake. No, there's got to be damage. He's going into the pits.
Yeah, that is damage, just non-visible damage, definitely. He's going to be going into there. Really doesn't have a choice in that scenario. But I think, yeah, that's definitely going to be scrutineered by race control.
I'm going to pull you to the front because these guys have been battling amongst themselves from 1st to 6th. They're down the inside. There might be a change of the lead as Cordor's going to go battling for Joris. And he is looking for anything he can. He's got the DRS. Remember, Joris doesn't have it as the lead driver. So down the inside into turn 4 we go. The lead will change, but whether Joris might fight this back on the next lap, well, that's a question because not only could he fight, but he also has to defend. There's an AlphaTauri right behind him. Nage, we know he likes to fight. He comes out to play. And I tell you who else is looking very fine in this position. Danny Coe, who can just let the squabble happen and pick up the reminiscences from it.
You've got a few options here. So Joris is probably in the hardest position. He's got to balance that attacking to stay on the back of Cordon alongside Istvan Nagy's attacks from the rear. He's got to find that balancing act. It's going to be difficult for him. Danny Coe is in the best position out of all of them because while Cordon has the lead, he's an immediate target for Joris and the Williams. Nage, of course, has to contend with what Cordon does alongside trying to get past Joris. So, like, if they don't have a coordinated attack move, then that could spell trouble. Danny Coe can sit there, and he can basically, like a vulture almost, pick up the scraps of whatever happens from the scrap up ahead.
Absolutely, as Alders will go past Lund. And I think Lund's got a problem because he's dropping back a little bit. He's out of ERS. He has nothing to fight back, but a late lunge will make it very viable into turn 4. Pushes the Alpine wide, but the Alpine spun off his own accord. There was contact before the exit of the corner. He went onto the grass, and then he spun after. So it's questionable. He will definitely push this forward into the stewards' room, but...
I know, it's a tough one. It's two perspectives. There's one, like, what is reasonable space? And two, what accounts for desync? Because, of course, we have our perspective, but they might be a little bit further to the left, a little bit further to the right on their perspectives. We'll, of course, have to see for stewards' inquiries.
Absolutely. But critically, I want to make this point very clear. From P7 to P6, it's nearly a 4-second gap. And these front runners are really pushing hard to make sure they're in a good position and comfortable amongst themselves, as Johansson, who's at the back having some fun. They're in that comfortable position where if someone, or if, you know, the battling did pick up, then not a lot's going to happen here because you've got a good buffer from the main pack behind you.
It really is about that buffer, that cushion. So no matter what happens, you can find solace knowing that you're not going to be under an immediate threat should you drop behind. Lundqvist, though, is in P6 right now. He's on the mediums. And I'd say out of all the drivers in this top pack, he's the one I'm most worried for. Because this would be unremarkable otherwise if they were on the same compound. But they're on what we are basically looking at as the fastest compound of the race. And they're behind these guys. So what happens when they make the switch onto hards?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. And you can see that Adam is going to be lining up and eyeing up a move down the inside, possibly into turn 3. Not just yet. Decides that this isn't the right moment. Backs out of the attempt. And he might try and eye up a better move into turn 4, but no ERS being used. So playing it safe rather than, you know, doing anything reckless on this lap. But Nage is getting extremely close. Nage was trying to look for an inside move into turn 6 for a moment. For a moment, it was going to be an AlphaTauri 1-2. But at this stage in the race, lap 9, we're already settling themselves down. They're finding themselves a rhythm. And it's a question is, when do I pounce or do I just sit here and just let the strategy game kick in?
I'd say let the strategy play out because for all it's worth, you can have an AT-1-2, but Joris is going to immediately come swinging back. If not by the DRS, then by the hand of saving the ERS, see if they can get an over or undercut. Because having the two teammates so close together is good for strategic in terms of fighting, but when you come to the pit wall and both being on the same compound, you're going to have to make a compromise for someone. And that's what they're waiting for, I think.
Well, as I say, we're going to have to wait and see as Oski will get past Gustav, and that will probably cause a chain reaction a bit further back because when one goes, they all go. That's usually the way it happens, but Gustav has got that DRS to fight back, but he just does not have the DRS, and more contact from these drivers as they're pushing and shoving each other. They are not letting up in the slightest.
I get the fighting passionately, but say at what point does fighting go too far? Say we're all individual drivers, we're fighting for pride, fighting for the championship. Well, I'm seeing a lot of contact out there.
Too much in my eyes. Like, there's an enjoyment level, and then there's this, which looks slightly unprofessional. But you can see the Ferrari of Finn. He's looking to maybe make a move down into turn 1. You don't usually see it here, because you want to pick up the DRS at this point, get a good exit, but the Ferrari of Finn has gone massively wide, and that's going to allow Lund, who has been crawling his way up through the field now, after a very poor start. He's now going to make his way into the position that he started this race, and Lund, well, what a drive he has from a as I mentioned, a terrible start.
Yes, that kind of balancing act. Ooh, Leo Lund and Ryderdal looking to make trades, but Ryderdal not giving up without a fight. Leo Lund loses the rear a little bit coming through turn 4. Ryderdal's going to get the immediate resend, the retake, but Leo Lund's not going to let it go without a fight. They avoid contact, heading through into the third sector now. Turn 7, turn 8. It's such a squeeze. No, that's going to be the top tipped, and that's going to be 2 cars caught in the crossfire as Finn gets tipped off the wing of Lund as he goes around.
All Lund's fault, though. You could see he was behind the driver ahead, and if you're behind, you have to yield. That is basic racing rules, unfortunately. You have to yield, and unfortunately Lund did tap. He caused his own spin, and then got caught up with Finn as well. So, unfortunate, the battle ending in such a disappointing way, but it is what it is, and you have to continue on with the race.
Yeah, just got to keep on keeping on. That's the MO for all these drivers. And, of course, you can sort of call it quits. So, like, Dimas, P19, looking to be damaged. I think it was fair in some cases where you can say, right, I'm not going to get anything out of this. I'm just frustrated. I'm not in the space to do this. But if you can salvage out of it, so say you are, like, in that sort of bottom half, if you can keep pushing, there's a chance that you can make points out of it, you can still get some good out of it, or even a net positive in terms of position. So looking at likes of Aliat, Tamas, Ice Bear, no, they're not going to get points, but they've made up 9, 4, and 5 positions respectively, so it's still an achievement.
Massive achievement indeed, and I tell you, someone who's not going to be happy and definitely going to be having things on their mind. It's going to be the is there going to be a move? It's going to be a move. It's going to be a double move, possibly. Sorry, I've just bring it to the front. Contact between Nage and Joris, as I was about to make my point, but Joris getting a very poor exit, and this is what we were meaning about Danny Coe waiting to pick up the pieces. He could wait for the scraps, wait for the fights, but he just doesn't commit to the move. Not close enough to fight off Joris. But that makes it a 1-2 for the AlphaTauris, and a great position to find themselves in. And back to my original point, Gustav, 3-second time penalty.
So Danico's really sort of acting like the silent Grim Reaper in all of this. He's got 80% on his battery compared to the rest of the folks who are starting to burn through at exceeding rates, trying to keep their positions. He's putting pressure on Joris. We saw the dummy move being thrown earlier on, and not even making the move, but just giving the hint that you're going to make a move is enough to start piling on that pressure and force your opponent into a mistake.
Realistically, Nage and Cawdor, Nage in P11 in the championship, Cawdor P13. Realistically, Danny Coe, he could sit here in his current position. He'll be fine to hold this championship lead. Of course, he'll want another podium, getting second in France. He'll want, you know, a nice position in Austria. So, statistically speaking, Danny Coe can chill. Because also Joris isn't in the immediate fight for this championship. So, play safe than sorry, Danny Coe. But, he'll also want the points because come the day that Dimas doesn't spin, or when Aleda does come back, you know they're going to come full force and try and fight for his championship title.
Yeah, so they are going to be absolutely coming full force. I know that Aleda certainly is going to be coming back with a vengeance, a little bit of a chip on their shoulder perhaps, because they're thinking, right, I've got lost 2 rounds. I've got to make up for lost time. I cannot afford to play it safe. If I want this championship, I got to take risks. I got to make these rounds count. So looking around, you've got a few drivers that, of course, to say we're looking at the top sharp end, but it still is anyone's game through all of this. I will say, Adam Lundqvist, though, on the medium compound, we're going to start to see the age of those soons, because the hard compounds, 14 laps, about 30-40%, I think, according to my readings. Yes, so 31% I'm reading here. And the mediums are only going to be higher than that, so we might start to see potential switchovers, to say about lap 17 or 18 for the medium runners. And then the hards, of course, going to be the other side of that fence.
We'll have to wait and see as we drop a bit further back from the front runners to the second pack, because you have one driver who sits himself kind of, it's not no man's land, but he's in a fairly decent position. That's Zerky. He is currently, that's not Zerky. Give me Zerky. There he is, the little Haas driver, who has found himself 1.5 ahead of P8 of Oski. But he is 6 seconds behind Adam in front of him. So essentially, in terms of a sim racer, this realistically is no man's land, because there's no DRS threat behind you, but you don't really have the DRS in front of you to pounce. So he's quite chilled. Then you go to the battle, which is getting a bit feisty, as the Alpine driver of Gustav is possibly and maybe thinking about a move to get past Oski. No, decides not to on this lap. This pack is quite close to one another.
Yeah, this pack is really just a minor bug there with my display, so apologies for that. Leo Lund is going to get the fastest lap, however, so a little bit of damage control potentially in terms of points, because remember, fastest lap is an extra point. And with only 25 splitting the entire field, Mikolash, though, going to be heading into the pits at what seems like very prematurely for the hard compound.
It does feel like that, as Johansson will get a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And what's the strategy? Because the question I'd like to ask, could a 2-stop work here?
Potentially so. I think if you sort of measured it out, I think the hard runners are in the best position to make that work. Super Gaming, though, last corner, he's backwards. He lost it through turn 10.
That's not fun. That is not fun indeed. And there's Super Gaming, and with no front wing. He started He started in a good... oh, he's only dropped 3 positions. I thought he was quite higher up. Huh.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's going to not only lose that time from the initial spin, but he's losing all that time without a front wing because he crashed out just ahead of the pit entry. So turn 10 is past the pit entry, and that means he couldn't go back in.
Yeah. Now the question is, who's going to go into the pits? Who's going to take the dive and react to the drivers behind pitting? And it's going to be nobody, but you saw Nage going a bit wide, so possibly a track limit warning for himself on the exit. There are still some areas of this track where you can get away with going a little wider. Not all of it is super strict. There are some areas you can push a little wide and you get away. But I think that one, especially onto the exit of turn 10, that's a sensitive area.
It's a very sensitive area, so you can't really be affording any mistakes there. And looking around the field, it's looking like anyone's game, really. You've got a few standouts, I'd say, people to keep an eye on. Danny Coe, Isban Nage in particular, I'll keep an eye on those two. But Zerky, 7.7 seconds, 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field. I'd say for someone in Zerky's position, just keep your head down, just keep lapping. Purely because you've got no threats either side. You just got to keep the pace up.
Yeah, definitely keep the pace up. Definitely keep going. And don't make too many wider corners. No risks while you're driving. Safe than sorry is the way forward. But Justin, he's got a good exit here. And a good run down to turn 1. And this potentially could be a very... The timings board says he's extremely close for a move. But he is going to be pushing that Alpine all the way up the hill. And did we just have a swap of lead? Did Nage...
Just had a swap of lead. Nage overtook Cordon.
Oh, wow. As we were watching ahead, and yeah, now it's going to switch back, and it's going to be Cordor on the inside. No, Nage on the inside, and he's going to get spotted. The teammates spin each other! Oh, no! Disaster for Nage, but with that buffer we said about, he's not going to lose out too far.
Damage limitation, but the important thing is, they were fighting. They were out on track, they're teammates, and they were fighting. And this is what happens.
It's racing at the end of the day. It's going to happen. And you said about picking up the scraps. Danny Coe has, but he's deciding, you know what? I'm going to let these boys go all out while I sit here, put a fresh set of boots on, and go for something a bit faster. Now, we have to look a bit further back to about P13, where the first of the drivers did pit. How much has Danny Coe lost out? He's going to start trundling down the pit lane himself. I think Danny Coe's going to lose out here. Danny Coe's lost a position potentially on the exit. Where is he? He's not going to lose out to 1. He's going to lose out to 2 drivers.
I think he's playing it safe, but given the amount of upset we've seen on the track, can you really blame him? Lundqvist is going to get immediately retaken because even when cold, it seems like those mediums just have such a grip difference on this track. But playing it safe is the fair play. This track is notoriously hard on the rear tyres. So I was looking about 40% on the fronts and then 50% on the rears. That grip differential means that it's so easy to lose the back end.
Absolutely. Critically, Isvan Nage did pit as well. He finds himself into P10 behind a lot of drivers now, but Cordor's still remaining out and he's still going for the long run. So lap 21 out of 36. What point do you sit here and say, right, let's go for the softs?
Well, I think Cordon's in a very good position because looking at some of the setup data, his tyre wear's very balanced compared to someone like we saw earlier with Danny Coe. Cordon's balance on the tyre wear is so much better. And that means he has a lot more confidence in the car to keep pushing it for those extra laps. The more miles you can munch on the hards, the more you're going to be on the advantage of the softer compounds. So I think that might be the strategy he's playing, but I don't think we're going to see him out more than a couple laps than we've already seen.
Yeah, and just for the indication, as you can see on your screen, the top 4 have not pitted, so they are still fighting for position. Well, everyone technically is fighting for position. No lapped cars, of course, as the front two will now eventually pit. So has this turned the tide? Is there enough of a buffer that the leaders of this race will keep their position? We drop down to P5. That will be Norwicki, who leads the train of the front runners, technically speaking. And I think this is going to be tight. It's going to be fairly close. Cordor is trundling out of his box. Here, you're going to see him just on the inside. And that is a clear victory for Norwicki. And Danny Coe finding himself into P3.
Yeah, I'd say P3, net P2 is going to be a strong position for that McLaren to fight in. I just wonder if these... It's very likely we're going to see a two-stopper here. Maybe everyone jumps onto the fastest to compound the softs at the very end, tries to steal that fastest lap away. Sparky is kind of in a difficult position right now because they're going to have to pit in, but can they disrupt the field before they do so?
How much damage are you willing to put out? That is the question. How is the question I have to ask? You've got the telemetry, you've got all the data. How is Sparky looking for his tyres, if you have that?
I'll say Sparky's only estimated, but I'd say we're looking at about, say, 50%, and then that is going to be across the board. So looks like he's going to be staying out yet another lap. With one thing that I can't tell, unfortunately, is the balance of tyre wear. So like we were saying earlier, if those rears are much more worn than the fronts, then he's going to be losing the rear quite a lot. And I think we nearly saw it there coming out of turn one. Just a tiny bit of slide, little micro correction in the steering wheel. I think that confidence is starting to go. And with Nowicki coming up behind soon, not sure what damage they can be done, if anything.
Yeah,
might be just to themselves.
It's Van Nage and Joris going to be battling it out into turn 3. I don't know where one of the drivers went, but he went extremely wide. That would be Joris went extremely wide, so he lost out critically. But Danny Coe has made the run down the inside into turn 4, and now Danny Coe is technically net leading this race. He was P2. He was second in France, and at this current point in speaking, is on the road to win this race. Of course, he's got to get past Sparky, of which he's not going to fight too much with him. As there is Sparky, going to dive into the pits, nearly running into the rear end, because that's how fast Danny Coe is going. Danny Coe takes the lead of this race.
He is on a mission. You can see it in how hard they are driving and pushing that car. You got 3 sort of different perspectives on this at the moment. Oh, is going to be retiring in the pit lane. But you've got 3 different perspectives. Cordon, 2 laps on the mediums. Danny Coe on 4. Nowicki on 7. Now, the advantage is in Cordon's court, but of course he's got 1.5 seconds to his name that he's going to have to catch up. Nowicki is also in a prime spot, but with already 25% odds, so about 10% more wear on the tyres than Danny Coe, they're going to see that advantage drop off a lot sooner. I do wonder how hard they're going to be pushing on those mediums, and for the particularly late runners on the mediums, whether we might even see a one-stopper with a little bit of compromise.
We'll have to wait and see, but I tell you what, we're not going to wait and see is this battle from It's Van Nage, Joris, and Adam, all battling it out. They came into turn 3, all very close to one another, so we're going to stick with this battle, see what is going to form of it. Adams dropped back from the battle, so it's now down to Nage and Joris. These two have been going at each other since the pit stop, so they are fighting. Well, actually, they've been going at each other for the entirety of this race, and once again, another run will come in, and Joris making another clean move, but Nage, he's almost said no, but he's playing the strategy game because they're both getting the overspeed and working together to close the gap to Cordor, who is by himself. He doesn't have the DRS to protect himself. So, if you're making overtakes and getting the overspeed, you're technically both gaining time.
And don't forget as well, Nage was the one to spin out in their initial altercation, so he's done really well to make up all of this time. And using their opponent in this case has been a brilliant strategic move.
You've got Cordor. He's just trying to close down the gap. He knows the situation he's about to face. So he's doing everything in his power to close the gap to Norwicki. And you know Norwicki's not going to say yes to that, as he does drop under the second mark. And if he keeps that under there, there's the detection point. He now has DRS for himself. Should open up here. No! He was just out of the line. So once again, the lovely Williams will close into the AlphaTauri. And now it's going to be ever so tight. I think it's right on the fringe for Cordor for this DRS at the moment.
Yeah, he's missing it by less than a tenth on all 3 detection points. It'll briefly dip within that second barrier, but by the time they get to the end of the straight, and inversely that you get to the next detection point, he's just out of that line. So he really needs to absolutely nail this next lap in order to be within that proximity.
We're coming up to 10 laps to go, and the front runners have failed to disappoint us today. They've calmed themselves down, relatively speaking. We're now getting to that plateau before we start bubbling up the next event of racing. The midfield, keeping it chilled, and not a lot is happening. I think we had a switch between Justin Alters and 10th place runner Ajeta. You're going to have to message us how to pronounce that name, because there's a lot of accents in there.
And so, yeah, then looking down at the bottom end of the pack, you've sort of got people struggling a little bit. You might have Super Gaming and Johansson switching places, but it's fairly quiet down at the bottom. Tamas might be looking for a move on Ice Bear. And at this stage, all eyes on front.
It is all eyes on front, just where we like to have it. As they still continue to fight, and the poor person who does not be able to be in this fight is Adam Lundiskith. I cannot pronounce his name to save my life, but Adam in P6. The alternative strategy, going medium to hard, clearly was not the way forward in this.
Well, he's got a stable position, so it may not be absolutely optimal, but he's certainly banked himself some fair points if he can make it to the end from here.
Well, he most likely, unless the commentator's curse kicks into play, he will remain into P6, because Zerky is not really gaining much, and I think he should be okay to the end of the race. Might be tense, questionable at the end, but as it stands, nothing to worry about, as Justin Alters will get past the 11th place runner, and now gains P10 for himself, but it's going to be up ahead. Cordor trying to go round the outside of Norwicki, but Norwicki holding the inside. A little touch, unless that's the game just glitching out. And Norwicki still holding position, but this is the critical time for Danny Coe maybe to think, right, these two are fighting. Shall I start to pull away? He hasn't made much of an effect, but he will hold still, and not much more will come from it.
Nowicki just got a 3-second time penalty. This changes everything. This top fight suddenly has become a lot more difficult. Nowicki's going to be dropped down to P5 with that.
He will be. It's going to be frustrating. You've done all this hard work. You've jumped most of the guys on the grid through a pit stop, and now a time penalty just to ruin all that hard work. I'd be devastated, but you have to stay focused. You have to keep going. And that has got to be the hardest bit, is that is a lunge by Joris just to pop into our screen. And Joris getting a brilliant exit. And I think he caught Cordor napping there. Definitely did not see it coming.
Yeah, so he just capitalized on the moment perfectly. Cordor was stuck behind Nowicki as he got a really bad turn 3 there. And Joris is just immediately there to just snip it back and immediately go for the opportunity. That's P3, and it's looking solid, but not without a fight. Cordon is going to continue throwing their car left, throwing their car right, looking for opportunity, waiting to see what comes of it. They do, of course, have their teammate behind them in Nage to back them up, but they are 2 laps older in terms of tyre compound, so the pace differential might not quite be there.
Yeah, absolutely. But the question I ask, and I ask every time we talk about teammates, are they really a teammate? This is a league where it's all about yourselves. But if you're in a good conversation or you're good friends with the guy in your team, then maybe. We'll see. We'll see. As you can see, Nage is going to dummy the move down the inside of his teammate of Cordor. So maybe not so friendly after all. But nothing to come from it. And the front runners now, they're going to start squaring each other up. 6 laps remaining. We're probably going to see fights start to really come out into lap 33 is when we're going to start to see some moves.
I'm also keeping a close eye on the health of the tyres, because I think it's about 40-50% that we start seeing some major pace drop off. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Brown about that mark. And who out of the pack is at threat of the major drop off?
So the main threats in terms of the cars on track, I'd say Leo Lund definitely at risk. 16, in fact, no, he's on 60% now. So definitely at risk. Nowicki is definitely up there as well, around 45 on average. So it is going to start to see some drop off.
I'm just going
Beyond
to
that,
slightly
though,
interrupt you
everyone's
here
balanced.
because there goes Joris down the inside. That's for second place, and Nowicki, who has the time penalty, spun and has actually collected Cordor as well. So Nowicki's damaged his wing, all the opportunity, and now he's just going to drop further back. But Cordor was caught in the crossfire. You could see that in the background. I don't know if Cordor's collected damage, but the damage that definitely has happened is he's now 2.3 seconds behind the front 3.
I think he's okay. I think the damage is fine. I'm not picking up anything on the reads. He can manage to dodge a bullet there.
He has dodged a bullet, but as I said, the major damage is the fact that he is not in this fight anymore. He can definitely keep up to pace, because if any of these guys get a time penalty, he might be able to collect a position. So he needs to stay on a good, strong pace. And hey, something could come from it.
He needs to make up that time gap though, 2.7 seconds. Even if anyone gets a warning penalty, the only real time at this stage where he could get any advantage is if it's his teammate, which is the last thing that you want.
It is the last thing, and Nowicki, I think that's going to be a retirement. Yep, into the pits he goes. He's retiring from P14. It was such a good run from Nowicki, but it wasn't meant to be today. Such a disappointment from a brilliant driver.
And this thing is that one moment where they dropped it, they dropped the ball, they collected cordon in the process. I guess that's all that it takes sometimes. That minute dip in consistency completely dethrones what other advantages and what, in some cases, lead you would have had. So you cannot drop the ball, not even in the very end.
We drop a bit further back on our screens. We've got Oski, Gustav, and Justin all very close to one another. We've seen Justin tussling with the Red Bull driver behind him, but he's all looked fired up. Lap 33, this is where I said you need to keep an eye out. He's already pulled out, ready to make the move a little too early, so he dips in a little bit more slipstream, but nothing here. But he's out running low on battery. You saw the red light flashing at the rear, and Alders is gonna do something. Justin, what can he do down into turn 3, sorry? Nothing yet, so it's going to be a turn 4 opportunity if he has the pace, if there is an opportunity that will open up, but that good run will not have anything on top of that, and he's going to sit still for lap 33. But the front runners, they've closed up. Joris right on the rear end of Danny Coe, and Danny Coe's in the worst position of them all. No DRS really to protect himself, but we've seen these drivers, and especially the way it's 3 DRS zones back to back to back, it's very easy to reclaim the position. If they make the overtake into turn 3, well, I'm just going to have it back into turn 4. So how much are these front runners willing to fight?
I hope Danny Coe's sort of preserved what they can of the battery, because it looks like this is kind of crunch time now. Joris is eagerly awaiting the move. You see them inching closer and closer. Danny Coe needs to place his car perfectly in the way at this point. There's not much that he can do except try and stave off what might feel inevitable. And that little bit wide on the apex coming through turn 4 there. It's just, yeah, those defensive lines. Joris, though, has to keep his wits about him. If he commits too hard to an attacking move and it doesn't work out, Nage's right there to reclaim P2.
Absolutely. As we ride on board with Nage, who's, again, he's in another prime position to watch this all unfold. If Joris wants to make the move, Nagy can pick up the scraps after, because one of the drivers will be slow. So P2 is in contention here, but Joris is going to try and do what he can. He's the closest he's ever been on track against Danny Coe, but he's going to have to wait patiently through turn 1. You need a good exit here, and you can easily lose a lot of pace on the exit, but you can see the straight line of Danny Coe pulling away, even with DRS fighting against him. But it does leave him vulnerable for a turn 4 overtake, because now he doesn't have any DRS to fight back if he did get overtaken. But he's going to survive one more lap.
Let's just hold the line. That's all he has to do. Doesn't have to be anything dramatic, anything flashy. Just hold the line. Save what battery you have until the last lap, because you know your opponent is going to be throwing absolutely everything. The kitchen sink is going to be an understatement. So they need to be prepared. They need to be ready.
Here we go. We're about to head into the last lap. Danny Coe will round the second to last and then last turn. Joris is not as close as he was before, so he's going to have to do a bit more work to really try and find a way past Danny Coe here. Into turn 1 we go. He gains a good amount of time. He needs a good exit here, but Danny Coe's gone a little bit wide and used a lot more curb. Has that helped him, or has it gone against him? But Joris is going to try and trundle his way up. He's got better pace this time, but the defensive move holding the position very nicely. But the switchback from Joris is going to be good. It's going to be favourable. He's got the DRS as well. That's going to help him with a straight line speed. But the battery dump from Danny Coe is not going to be enough. And what looked to be set to be a win for Danny Coe has just slipped through his hands. Is there any opportunity, any slither or the hope for Danny Coe to make a move back and claim what was his? Or is it Joris's victory, his stampede, his crusade through the grid? It has been a crusade for sure, because Joris wasn't in contention from the start. He has made himself victorious in Austria. Joris wins the Austrian Grand Prix.
What a Grand Prix it is to win. It's such a hard-fought battle right till the end. Danny Coe held the line as best he could, but that overcooking in turn 3 was really what did him in there. Fortunately, nothing he could do. Burnt everything in the battery. Threw it a bit too hard.
Absolutely. And Joris going back-to-back wins. Something we did not speak about last race. Back-to-back wins. No new winner this time. But that's going to massively jump up. And he didn't even do well in Spain and Bahrain. DNFs on both occasions. This is bittersweet for Joris. This must feel amazing.
Yeah, I think the elation of winning a race, especially in a league like this, there's very few things that can replicate it. Especially in the position that he's in, where he's got, well, as you say, it is now going to be back-to-back wins. Very few drivers can take that claim.
And especially in sim racing, because even if you look at the professional scene, I say professional, these guys are all professionals in their own statement, but tier 1 level, you don't really see a back-to-back winner. There's always someone else taking that win and shining. You might see the usual suspects on the podium, but not a back-to-back like that. But what a race today.
The only thing that could have made it potentially even better would have been a fastest lap. Zerki's going to be taking that one in P6 with the Haas.
Absolutely.
So that's an extra point for them.
Quick rundown of the grid. Joris taking P1. Oh, he started on pole. I didn't even realize. You know what? Because he dropped back so far, I completely forgot he was on pole. Danny Coe in P2, It's Van Nage P3, Cordor P4, Adam P5, Zerki P6. P7 goes to Oski, Justin Alters finding himself from P17 to P8, Sparky P9, Ice Bear in P10. P11 goes to Tomas, Gustav P11, the new Red Bull driver, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce and mess up. In P13, P14 goes to Finn Lund, finding one of his worst positions in the season. In P15, P16 goes to Super Gaming. Johansson still disappoints me in P17. Norwicki retired in P18. Roman in P19. And Dimas not happy retiring from the very early starts of this race in P20.
Yeah, I would say the big winners and big losers are today. I'd say big winner, Lundqvist, for sure. We saw them really making that climb upwards, and we saw a lot of fighting, and even won the alternate strategy, which we didn't initially have that confidence in. They pulled it off. They made it work. So a big winner for me today is going to be Lundqvist.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, so I've just had a DM because I don't have access to my DM, so sorry, Dimas. He really provided me with some really interesting facts. Dimas actually retired because his pedals was not working. So that's why he dipped out quite early.
Yeah, the technical issues, the gremlins.
It does come around. It really does, and it's always unfortunate when they do, but it is what it is. You go into next race, hopefully with a stronger mentality, and Dimas is a strong man and a strong racer, so we'll see what comes from it. But next week, I'm looking forward to this one because I've seen how this track lays out in different leagues, and it's a definite overtaking track. The elbows go out, and there's always some damage, and I can probably guarantee a safety car as well as we head to Azerbaijan on the Baku street circuit. Are you excited for that?
Oh, Baku, my beloved. That's all I can really say.
Chill, Daddy, chill.
It's such a unique track. Despite looking very geometric on the surface, there's actually a lot of nuance, I feel. So I always look forward to Baku on the calendar.
Do you know what? I've not really had a lot of Baku sim racing. I've been doing commentary since 2019. I started all my commentary. Got into Formula One, 2020? Maybe 2021. So 2-3 years. I've not really done Azerbaijan as a commentary, and especially recently, seeing how brilliant that track is to watch, to see these drivers race on it. Oh damn, it's working its way up the list.
Oh, you're definitely gonna love it. All I hope is that viewers do too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want more of the action, of course, stay tuned next week as we're gonna have more drama, more action, and more chaotic driving. I couldn't think of something to rhyme there. But if you want the professionals, I think that is on the Wednesday, which is going to be Tier 1 as they battle it out for the best of the best with a lot of big names such as Otmir, Ronha, and I think we've got Josh Idawa racing as well. So if you want to see them battle it out, then that's the place to go. But as I said, if you want action here, stick here. Ben, any last words from you?
Let's have some fun in Baku.
Love it. Thank you all for watching, and good night.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.